Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar, and before we dive into today's topic, I do just want to remind you that if you have any questions that you would like to have discussed on this podcast, then feel free to send me an email. There is a form that you can find the link to in the description that you can send me any questions or even some ideas for potential heroes that we can study in the future. Today, I want to talk about focusing on yourself, or should I say focusing on ourselves. One of the things that I often find when I am working with individuals is there is so much of a focus on trying to influence and change other people because we perceive that what someone else is doing is what is causing the hang-ups, the hurts, the headaches, what have you, that we are experiencing. I believe this is something that I have seen in many therapy offices, and that is we need to focus on what we can control, not on what other people are in control of. This is something that comes up a lot with the comparison game. If we are looking at ourselves, if we're looking at our actions, if we're looking at our skills and our abilities and comparing those to what others are capable of doing, a lot of times we're going to find ourselves lacking. In the, I would say, rarer situation, you can find yourself experiencing an inflated sense of ego that you are better or more skilled at something. But at least personally for me, most of the time, what ends up happening is I end up looking at myself and I'm lacking. And therefore, I am not doing well enough, I'm not good enough, there's something inherently wrong with me. One of the things that is driving this is I am focusing too much on other people. And I have told many clients, and this is something I need to remind myself of quite frequently, is the only fair comparison that we can have is between who we are now and who we used to be. What this means is I'm looking for growth. I'm looking for change in myself. I am seeing how I have improved. I am seeing where my shortcomings are and what I can do to make some lasting change in small little steps at a time. I have often found we will say, infuriating concept of trying to influence and control and change other people when I have no control over that. I have no control over how someone else is going to respond. I have no control over what others are going to say about me. I can do everything I can in order to have the most favorable outcome in how others view me. But as I've shared before, we are not the only ones who are making our stories here. Other people have an influence. Other people are bringing their own stories into their interactions. And there's just some people that are not going to like you, not going to appreciate you, not even going to notice you. I have no control over that. This is what I mean when I say we need to focus on ourselves. You need to focus on yourself. I need to focus on myself. Because the only person that you have any impact on is yourself. Now, that isn't to say that your words and your actions are not going to have an impact on others around you. But when we're talking about making real lasting change, that has to come from within. That has to come from inside of you. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people where we will talk about some kind of hang up that they're working through, or something that had an impact on them when they were growing up. And I do my best to share with them and encourage them and to get them to see things from a different perspective. And they leave a call with me and they're saying, you know what? I'm feeling really good about myself. Man, that was some of what I really needed to hear. And then I find that the next time we have a call, they're wrestling with the same thing again. If not that soon, guaranteed within 2 months, we're having that same conversation again. Why? Because there is one person that you are spending all waking and non-waking hours with, and that's yourself. It's a big reason why I do a lot and I talk a lot about what we're saying to ourselves. What are those self-limiting beliefs that we are saying that are giving us the outcomes in our lives that we are trying to change, really? Because I am reminded of what Deborah Folletta says in her book Reset, that our thoughts lead to our feelings and our feelings lead to our behaviors. You'll notice that it doesn't really say what others are saying about you leads to how you feel. That might be a little controversial, but hear me out on this. What I mean when I say what other people are saying to us is not what's driving our feelings and then our actions, is we oftentimes already have messages that we are telling ourselves. A great example of this was just yesterday, actually. Yesterday, according to the time of this recording, I was trying to share something with my partner, Libby. And there was something else that was going on with her that was drawing her attention away. And she apologized 2 or 3 times for interrupting me. Now, this is something that can still be a big trigger for me. It is something that I can get dysregulated by quite quickly because I have a lot of experience with individuals, especially those who I have called family and I love, who interrupt and make me feel belittled or unvalued in what I have to say. Now, that is a real experience. What I do with those words and with those actions has much more of a profound effect on me than the words that were actually said. Back to my example. Libby was having something going on. I'm not going to go into detail. That's honestly not for everyone to know. But there was something going on as I'm trying to share something that's going on with my earbuds. Things were really weird with the earbuds that I've honestly used like every single day now for a couple of years. I'm surprised that they're still working as well as they do. I'm just trying to share with her what was going on, and something else was coming up, and it was drawing her attention away. And she did apologize a couple of times, saying, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I didn't mean to. The intention was there that, A, she was apologizing for this thing that she knows is dysregulating for me. Yet, that wasn't what was driving my feelings and my actions down the toilet. What was causing that spiral were all of the thoughts that I was telling myself that apparently she just doesn't care about what's going on, or it's really not that big of a deal, I guess, not compared to what she's going through. I I just clammed up and I got in my own head and I repeated a lot of self-limiting and even defeating messages that I have told myself for years. The spark that caused that was this experience that I had with Libby. However, the fuel was not brought on by her. That was brought on by very old mindsets that just came out in force. In that experience, I had no control over what Libby was going to do. I did, however, have control over where I allowed my mind to go. Thankfully, it didn't take me that long in order to break free from the debilitating cycle that I found myself in. However, I've also done a lot of work in this area. I have invested a lot in myself. I have focused much on who I am, what I'm saying to myself, and that's the value of this mindset. I'm not saying that we should become narcissists by any means. What I am proposing here is that we do give ourselves the time and attention that we need in order to become the person that we ultimately want to be. The person I want to be is not someone who is going to start throwing a pity party for himself every single time someone cuts him off when I'm saying something. That's not the person I want to be. That's not the genuine Marcus who is the hero in his story. That's me portraying a victim. That is me allowing myself to just lean back and become a background character in the story of my life. So that's what I mean when I want us to focus on ourselves, when I want you to focus on yourself. That's what I do when I focus on myself. We are talking about looking at what we can control and doing what we can to control ourselves. Again, I'm going to hammer this into the ground. The only person that you have control over is yourself. As someone who is still navigating what it means to be a dog dad, I can tell you there are certain things that I cannot do in order to get Odin to do what I want him to do. Now, the difference between a dog's brain and a human brain means that there are some things that we can do in order to elicit certain behaviors from our animal companions. However, Libby and I were gone for an evening, and we came home and Odin had destroyed another bed. Just ripped up this faux leather and was chewing on some of the foam. It was a mess to come home to. We have tried and tried and tried to get him to stop destroying these softer, not just toys, but even beds and blankets. And unless he is being supervised all the time, that's not something that we can really trust him with. Because nothing that we have done has really gotten him to completely get rid of this behavior. Because he's a dog. There are certain behaviors that I don't need to hold on to. I can control that. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort. Dare I even say it takes a lot of fucking effort to get over these old behaviors and these old mindsets. Focus on yourself. Focus on what you can control. If life is feeling out of control, take a look to see if you are focusing on things that you have no control over. I have no control over what my partner does. I have no control over what my friends do when we're getting together to play games. Oh my word, I was just sharing with Ben the other day that the last time we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, this was just this last Saturday, I was bored. I was pointing every bit of evidence to what they could be doing, and they chose to do something entirely different. And there was a lot that didn't really involve me. I was wanting them to progress in the chapter, but they had their own thing that they were wanting to do. They also didn't want Ben to miss out on fighting a dragon because that's coming up. And Ben wasn't feeling well, so he wasn't there. So guess what? They filled up the time. The 4.5 hours that we played, they filled that up with all sorts of other stuff. There was nothing I could do to control that. It could have been a very frustrating experience trying to manipulate all of my friends to do something that I wanted them to do in this campaign that I'm running. However, I'm not the one in control. I'm the one who knows a lot of what's going on in the background. But they are collaborators in this story as well. If they want to wait 4 days, not like 4 actual days, but 4 in-game days before they fight this dragon, and they're doing everything they can to give them the best advantage they possibly can, that's what they're going to do. That's the story that they want to tell. I could have ripped what's remaining of my hair out, or maybe start pulling hair out of my beard, trying to get them to do anything other than that. But I can't control that. There are things that I can do to manipulate, but I wasn't willing to go there. Not for something as small as this. And now they know what's coming. When we get together 2 Saturdays from now, there's going to be a dragon fight, and they're getting ready for it. Just because I'm ready for them to finish up this chapter doesn't mean that I need to push them. Yeah, it was kind of boring for me, and that's just how it is being a game master. You have to be prepared for these kind of things. And we still had fun all the same. I want to ask you a question here. What is something that is taking place in your life right now that you can make change to, that you can personally challenge yourself to change, but you've been putting the onus on someone else? Could be something with work, could be something with school, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's with a romantic partner, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's between you and a coworker or you and a boss, maybe it's between you and a pet even. What is one thing that you can control about that situation? What is one thing that you can do in order to change how you present yourself in that relationship or that situation? Take some time to think on that. Maybe there's something that's immediately coming to mind. Maybe not. Whatever it is, just know that if you are feeling like things are out of control, there is a really good chance that your focus is on something else. You are looking too much at what you cannot control in your life. There are things you can control, however. Find what it is that you can control and start to take control of that in your life. You can always control how you respond to something, with some exceptions. There are certain mental conditions that people have where their brain just immediately shuts down. But there are still things that you can do with that. You can control what you are saying to yourself. That is something you always have control over. It can be hard to notice, though. Coming from someone who has had to navigate that minefield of all of the negative shit that I tell myself, that can be hard. It can be hard to notice when something that is so ingrained inside of you is running in the background. And we need to bring it to the foreground and say, wait a minute, no, this is not helping me in this situation. Me saying that Libby didn't care about what I had to say or what was going on with me just wasn't nearly as important as what was going on with her. No, that was not helping in that situation. And if I stayed there, I would have been a very grumpy individual to be around. With that, I do just want to challenge you. Find one thing that you can focus on yourself. One thing that you can do in order to change something in your life that you are unhappy with. And make it something small. This is important here. Make it something small, because if you do large, grand, and drastic changes, your brain is going to resist that. It always does. We are trying to make new neural pathways in our brains, and our brain requires a lot of energy to do that. Remember, your brain, just like mine, likes to take the easy way out. That is the path of least resistance. So the neural pathways that are just so easy for the electrical signal to fire in your brain, that's what it wants to do. If that is getting stuck in this negative mindset, that's what it's going to do. If it's going to be reinforcing these feelings that you're experiencing because of what someone else said, and then you're effectively stoking the fire and making it bigger inside of you, and you're going down this pathway that is telling you, you suck, you're not good enough, there's no way you're going to change this, or there's no way that anything is going to get better in your life, that's what your brain is used to doing. So we need to make those changes. Make those changes very subtly, very small. What is one small thing that you can do to start changing that? It might be as simple as becoming aware of what you are thinking. Bring the unconscious into the conscious. It could be just saying something positive to yourself. It could be asking for someone else to give you a different perspective. How do you see this? It could be reaching out to someone else for support. Whatever it is, there's a lot of things that you can do. Those are just some examples. But do something small to start making the change that you want in your life. I hope this has been inspiring and insightful for you. And I will be back next week for another hero study. I'm excited for this one. So until next time, I want to remind you, you can do this, and you are not alone. And until next time, live strong for today.